Hello, everyone. At the OJCS, we have Innovation Day coming up in February. And to celebrate that, I'm going to read a few stories about my favorite scientist, Charlotte. And these two books are by author Camille Andros and illustrator Brianne Farley. So the first one we're going to read is going to teach us the steps of the scientific method. And on my blog, I've included a coloring page so that you can actually color it and learn it. It's a good thing to know. Charlotte the Scientist is Squished by Camille Andros and Brianne Farley. Charlotte was a serious scientist. Protective glasses, a lab coat, and a magnifying glass were her essential scientific equipment, plus a clipboard for important notes. Charlotte solved problems by conducting experiments that followed the scientific method. And then she has a poster behind her outlining all those different steps. So we have a question, hypothesis, experiment, observation, and conclusion. She's wearing her protective glasses, she has a clipboard, magnifying glass, and a lab coat on. And Charlotte had a problem. She was squished. She was squished at the table, she was squished in the tub, and sometimes she was even squished on the toilet. Oh no. It had become impossible to conduct her experiments. Her test tubes were taken, her beakers got broken, and her specimens were spoiled. Charlotte needed some space. Time to use the scientific method. Step 1. Ask a question. How can I get some space around here? Step 2. Form a hypothesis. Her hypothesis is, if I can get rid of my brothers and sisters, then I will have room to be a real scientist. Step 3, test the hypothesis. Experiment. She tried an experiment to make everyone disappear, but it didn't work. She tried another experiment to make herself disappear, but that didn't work either. If she was going to get some space, she would have to go there. So you can see she has a sign that says keep out, and you can hear all this banging and clanging going on in there. She's built herself a little carrot-shaped rocket ship. Here she is inside. Step 4, make and record observations. Charlotte was no longer squished at the table. She was no longer squished in the tub. And Charlotte could take as long as she wanted on the toilet. Space was splendid. So here are her observations. Meals check, baths check, toilet check. Important experiments. Here we go. Step 5, draw conclusions. She says, finally. She had all the room she needed to conduct very important experiments using her protective glasses, lab coat, and magnifying glass. Her test tubes were tidy, her beakers looked brilliant, and her specimens were sparkling. Her hypothesis was correct. She finally had room to be a scientist. The only problem was there was no one to talk to at mealtime, no one to blow bubbles with in the tub, and what was Charlotte supposed to do when she ran out of toilet paper? Hello? Space was lonely. Back to step 2, form a new hypothesis. Space plus no friends equals lonely scientist. If I can have friends in space, then I won't be lonely, and I can be a real scientist. Time for more experiments. Charlotte tried chocolate, but it was too tempting. The balloons kept floating away. And robot bunnies were poor conversationalists. They got ruined in the bathtub and tangled in the toilet paper. Boop. Charlotte missed her family. She even missed being squished. So she tried one last experiment. And reached a new conclusion. Charlotte didn't need outer space. She just needed her own space. So she set up a lab inside of her little rocket ship. So here it outlines all the steps of the scientific method. We talked about asking a question, forming a hypothesis, testing the hypothesis with an experiment, making and recording observations, and forming a conclusion. Wow. So if you guys are participating in Innovation Day, you know that those are the steps you're going to have to use. All right, my friends. In this one, Charlotte the scientist finds a cure. And this one, again, is by Camille Andros and illustrated by Brianne Farley. Charlotte was a serious scientist. She spent her days doing research, performing experiments, and solving problems. Charlotte lived in the forest with her bunny-sized family, which was bigger and better than ever because Grandpa had moved in. Grandpa was wise, he had many awards, and when he spoke, everyone paid attention. Every day, Grandpa visited Charlotte in her lab. He watched her doing research, performing experiments, and solving problems. Every day, Grandpa said, "Charlotte, you're going to make a real difference in the world." Charlotte paid attention. One day, Grandpa didn't come to the lab. He was sick, and Grandpa wasn't the only one. A mysterious malady had infected the animals of the forest. Charlotte wanted to help. Maybe this was her chance to make a difference. She swapped her magnifying glass for a stethoscope, her protective glasses for a mask and gloves, and got to work. It was time for some serious medical science. Charlotte would find a cure. She has gloves, her mask, her stethoscope. First, she collected a complete medical history on each patient. "What seems to be the problem?" she says. Next, she gave a thorough physical exam. Patient privacy was a top priority. You can see she's looking in that bear's mouth, just like the doctor does, right? Then she gathered specimens. Next, she's gathering specimens, I guess, of poop, since she's near the toilet. But her results were inconclusive. She couldn't figure it out. Charlotte was stumped. The infection was spreading fast, so she imposed a quarantine. But keeping bunnies in one place was next to impossible. The birds kept flying away, and skunks stinking simultaneously was proving problematic. So quarantine means the sick ones aren't allowed to leave. So she has all these sick ones together. Oh no. Meanwhile, a team of doctors arrived to visit Grandpa. Charlotte was eager to share her research and work with them to find a cure, but instead they ignored her. "Run along, little one. This is grown-up work." Charlotte wondered if they were right. She was little, and the doctors were very smart. Maybe she should leave it to the experts. But then she remembered what Grandpa had told her. "Charlotte, you're going to make a real difference in the world." She would find the cure herself. Charlotte dissected the data, studied the samples, and plotted out patterns. Soon, a curious carrot connection emerged. Everyone who was sick had been eating carrots. In fact, the carrots hadn't looked right for quite some time. Charlotte formed a hypothesis. If everyone who was sick had been eating carrots, then the carrots were what was making everyone sick. Uh-oh. Yeah, those carrots don't look too good. Charlotte consulted the Comprehensive Compendium of Carrot Conditions. It could only be one thing: funky forest fungi. After careful consideration, Charlotte came up with a second hypothesis. If eating the infected carrots was making everyone sick, then stopping contaminated carrot consumption could be the cure. So these carrots have a disease that is making everyone sick, which is called funky forest fungi. Stop! Do not eat the carrots! Charlotte went back to work. The carrots needed to be cured. So she created a customized carrot corrective. Charlotte thought a few sprays a day should do the trick. She's actually creating something that's going to help the carrots to be healthier, right? Because the carrots were infected with fungi. It worked, but Charlotte didn't stop there. She conducted a clinical trial to see if eating cured carrots could mend the malady. It did. So she gave the healthy carrots to the patients, and it made them all better. Charlotte realized she didn't need to be the oldest or smartest. She had stopped the sickness, cured the carrots, and saved the forest. Charlotte had made a difference. And best of all was the difference in how she saw herself. So here it says, in the lab with Charlotte. So it talks about all the different steps they talked about. A clinical trial, which is an experiment that tests the effects of a treatment on a group of individuals. Compendium, a book about a subject. Consumption, the act of eating or drinking. Contaminate, to make harmful, dirty, or impure. Corrective, something that makes a problem better. Dissect, to take apart, cut up, or divide in order to study. Hypothesis, we learned that in the other book. A best guess answer to a question. Malady, a sickness or a disease. Medical science, science that involves the prevention and treatment of disease. Quarantine, in order to keep sick people or animals away from those who are healthy. And a specimen, a sample of a substance used for medical testing. So we learned a lot about how science works and how they find cures for things that make people sick, right? She did some amazing detective work. In the lab, of course, but it's still detective work. All right, everybody, have a super fun innovation day, and I will see you all soon.